Hello, everyone. Salam alaikum. Welcome to another session of Zoom In on the Halal Metropolis, where we're talking to different members of the Muslim community, see how they're doing, what they're working on. And here we have today Bisma Parvez, who is a freelance journalist. She's worked for the Detroit Free Press and other newspapers and media outlets in the area. Welcome, Bisma.
Salam alaikum. Thanks for having me, and salam alaikum to everyone who's watching.
Walaikum assalam. Yeah, welcome. It's so great to see you. And I definitely want to ask you about what you're working on and how the adjustment's been for you as a journalist. But before we get into that, how are you doing and how's your family doing? And how are you and the kids adjusting to this new reality?
We're doing well. We're dealing as best we can. We actually do have a positive COVID case in our house currently too. So yeah, so we did have, 6 family members and taking care of them, but alhamdulillah, it was very manageable and very, not asymptomatic completely, but nothing crazy where anyone had to go to the hospital or anything. So we're just kind of dealing with taking care and of course, kids being home, homeschooling, and trying to get everything done, so
Yeah.
it's been interesting.
Yeah, you're kind of having to do it all, play lots of different roles now. So
for sure,
yeah.
for sure. And I'm gonna say right now, props to teachers, all the teachers out there who take our kids for 8 hours a day. It's not easy to make sure they're getting all that information and they're getting physical activity in and they're still having fun and they still are focused. So thank you to all the teachers out there who really work hard.
Thank you for saying that. I think a lot of parents are probably have a renewed sense of appreciation for educators and teachers.
Oh my God, they need to get paid a whole lot more.
Yeah, I taught for 1 year in a Detroit public school. It was a wild experience. I'll save that story for another day. But so, in terms of the pandemic, a lot of the great work that you were doing, how has your work been affected by what's been going on?
Well, I mean, when we were covering it for the Free Press, for example, obviously everything was surrounding COVID-19. And you got to think about it like this, because it's the new normal, we got to cover in every aspect. So health, hospitals, but then you also want to look at the economy. You want to see what people are buying, how it's affecting businesses in our area. And then we're also looking at how Halal Metropolis is doing it. How are people dealing with it at home? How it's affecting schools. So honestly, it's so large and all encompassing. And then, you try your best to cover every aspect of it so that, people are understanding how it's affecting everyone. And then plus keeping up with just the news that was always happening anyway, right? So it's like a double whammy of keeping up with everything, really.
And so as a journalist, what types of stories were you interested in, or are you interested in right now? I mean, and I mean, sort of looking beyond the numbers, of what's happening, which are scary and important. But what are the human interest stories, and what are the things that you're looking for?
So right now, actually, I'm doing a freelance article for Tostada magazine, and this is more for how the Muslim community is dealing with the pandemic. And especially during Ramadan. It's the fact that Ramadan is here now and we're fasting, and, normally we'd be going to the mosques and we'd be having, breaking fast with family and friends. So this aspect, like you said, it's the human aspect of how our community is dealing with, all this craziness, this new norm on top of having Ramadan. And on top of people now, like you said, losing their jobs, and not having that, kind of how our community is coming together and passing out iftars, passing out groceries for the month, things like that. So how just the community is coming together to deal with all of that is one of the articles that I'm working on right now to show, kind of how we're dealing with it and how we're working together to make sure that everyone's taken care of.
Wow, that sounds like an awesome story. Please let us know when it's out. We'd love to share it with our audience.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and with the pandemic affecting so many different things, looking ahead a little bit in terms of journalism and how it's already changed over the last like 10, 15,
Mm-hmm.
20 years with the proliferation of online, media. What do you think is going to be the long-term effect for journalism and freelance journalists like yourself?
Honestly, I feel like it's so up in the air right now. And in some sense, there's actually more opportunities because something is going on and now we need more people covering it, right? And you want to make sure that you are hitting every community. And so it's good that we can, you get diversity and you make sure that people who are in that community and they know what's going on can cover it. So there's a lot of opportunity there. At
Hmm.
the same time, because of the pandemic, because businesses are suffering, because advertisements and things are going down, it's a balance of, do people have the money of paying not just freelance journalists, but just any, you know what I mean, any journalist. um, so many media outlets have either furloughed reporters
Hmm.
or laid off and things like that. So at this point I feel like it's a good opportunity, but also it's very hard to kind of get in if you're not already well connected.
Yeah, and I think like
So it's a balancing act.
yeah, and I think the economics of it are just really challenging,
Hmm.
and I think especially in a situation like this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts of just like, like I was saying, the numbers are so scary, and there's just like data that as journalists you have to just share, you have to put out there,
Oh yeah.
and at the same time, there's like the human interest stories, like the one that you're working on, but then there's also a need for humor and lighthearted,
Oh,
stuff,
absolutely.
and I think that's kind of where we need some of that balance, and journalists do a great job of providing that. And so
Yeah,
I think if people are losing their jobs or having a hard time getting work, then I think that's one of the things that gets lost.
I agree. And you're right. Like we still like it can't be, I mean, it has to be, you have to know what the numbers are. And unfortunately journalists get so much slack because they're like, oh, you're just pushing out these numbers, you're trying to scare
Mm,
everyone, which obviously is not the intent. But at the same time, you need to be aware of, keeping updated with how many cases we have, how many deaths we have. It's important. At the same time, yeah, you need those humor stories. You need something, because it can get depressing very fast. And I feel like people's mental health will then also get affected. You're cooped up in home, you can't go out, you can't see your friends. So you do need kind of to balance the facts with also some, human interest, some humor, some things like that. So you kind of, and the great thing about journalism, you can present it in so many ways. I mean, social media really, is journalism in a way, or reporting in a way where people are sharing what's happening. And really you can get a inside look of what people are doing in their homes and kind of get ideas of, different things. I have so many mom like bloggers on social media who share different like activities they've been doing with their kids, or just different meals they've been making, or so it's really nice to see what other people are doing so you can implement that into your own lifestyle too. So I feel like it's so important to
yeah,
have that.
absolutely, yeah, and I think it's one of the things that situations like this cause people to do is become very innovative,
Hmm.
and coming up with new ways to do lots of different things. And I think journalism is no different than that. There'll be a lot of different changes and adjustments to that, in the coming future. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
something I've been doing myself too. So a lot of people have been going on TikTok during the quarantine, and I made a TikTok account and I've been sharing like TikToks, some just fun, lighthearted stuff, but some stuff where really you're talking about what's happening, but
mm,
in such a different way. And
yeah.
so that people are getting the news, but like these younger kids, for example, might not be going to like news websites to read an article. You're scrolling through, and so you have like, say, a 7 second or a 10-second window to get some information to someone.
Mm,
And it really is innovative, and so many different people actually are doing this, where you're scrolling through but you're getting so much information on what's happening, and in like a satire, humorous kind of way, but you still are well aware of things that are happening. Like even today, with, I'm sure there's a protest going on at the Michigan Capitol, um, and I feel like it's important, and people will make it in a joke, where like, but at the same time, it kind of shines light on how we deal with things. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, for example, there's a bunch of people there with guns and militia uniforms and things like that. And if the brown or the Black community was over there doing that same thing, how would it be handled, you know? And sometimes it's hard to say that straight, but if you put like a funny twist to it, and you say, hey, you know, it's so like you still get the point across, but you know, it makes people aware of what's happening without it being so in your face and so direct. And there's like an entertainment factor while still informative. So I feel like you were saying, you can be so innovative right now while sharing news, while still being a journalist. And I mean, I love that. That's actually, you know, that's something I want to do. So I think it's important to be able to do that.
That's amazing. And you're absolutely right. I actually, it reminded me of the young woman that through TikTok was making a makeup tutorial, but she was talking about the Uyghur oppression that's taking place.
That's right.
In China, and it went viral because, you know, people were learning about it, and but through this very subversive way, she was able to get the message out there, you know, and so that's really important.
And it gets so many people interested in, and it's something, and because you don't expect it, it's almost a shock value where it hits you more. Do you know what I mean? Like when I'm going on a news website and I'm reading an article, you're almost expecting, not bad news, but you know, you're almost expecting, obviously you're expecting that you're going to be getting some kind of information. But like the way that girl did it, where there's like a makeup video or someone else is doing something and they're singing or they're rapping or they're making a joke. And all of a sudden you're hit with this, like the punchline is actually the information that you need. Like it's phenomenal the way that you can share this information. And I feel like it's so important that we encourage that, actually, because, you know, then the news goes out to so many different age groups and communities and, you know, different things like that. So
that's great. I feel like this is like a whole other topic, you know, that we could dive into.
Oh my God, right?
But, you know, Bisma, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And good luck to you and your family is in our thoughts and prayers, you know, inshallah, speedy recovery. But so great to see you. Keep up the great work. And please share anything that you're working on with us, and we're happy to put it out there. Thank you so much. Take care. Ramadan Mubarak to you.
You too. Ramadan Mubarak.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum.